Hello everyone and welcome to F5 Demo Days, a program designed to make you familiar with the power of F5 distributed cloud solution. In these short demo sessions, we will show you how easy it is to enable SaaS-based security services such as web application firewall, API security, bot defense, and DDoS mitigation. I'm Patrick Zoller, Solution Architect, and I will be your host for today's session. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items to note. If at any time throughout the session you experience any issue with the audience or slides, try to refresh or even restart your browser. Sometimes switching to a different browser may also result in a better experience. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please submit them in the Q&A box. We will conduct a live Q&A session at the end to answer questions on today's topics. The topic for today's session is Decentralizing WAAPaaS as a Service with Customer Edge. And your presenter today is Philippe Kloop, Senior Solution Architect at F5. Over to you, Philippe.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So today, as Patrick mentioned, we will talk about decentralizing WAAPaaS as a service with Customer Edge. And I will try to make you aware of what we mean by Customer Edge here. So first of all, we've been looking into those different topics in the previous sessions. We are at the session number 6. So you've been hearing about DDoS mitigation, web application firewall, bot defense, and API security, and also the intro about the F5 Distributed Cloud Platform. Today's session will be focused on Edge component, which is adding a little bit of multi-cloud connectivity and mesh. What we call mesh here is connecting the cloud edge devices and software between them, and providing also all the different layers of security that we've been talking about earlier. So moving forward on this, why we need an edge service and why it makes sense. So first of all, the edge we are talking about, we are not talking about especially about edge computing, which is a very specific angle of the edge. We are talking about the edge, meaning getting closer to the end user consumer. The consumption model is that you try to connect more local, meaning a lower latency to the application, and a lower bandwidth consumption, and also the raw data, thinking about, for example, solutions that are taking camera inputs. All those pictures don't have to go through the upstream and to the cloud or even a data center. Potentially, they can be managed locally with some GPUs, machine learning system to identify people, and then only the signal are sent with the identification and not especially the pictures. It allows also having policies being defined centrally and being pushed and deployed anywhere, meaning that the enforcement point will be the edge itself. So we have a local inspection with the edge, but we have a centralized policy and control. And we also control, in a way, the operations and the visibility of the solution by having this central way of managing and looking into the traffic and security challenges. So F5 Distributed Cloud Platform, let me go a step back to the overview of what you've seen in the previous sessions also. The platform itself is made of different components. The area, the regional edge, is the entry point to our global network, which is a dedicated network with a high bandwidth, low latency, and this network is providing worldwide connectivity. And we have the areas, the regional edges that are connecting to the CEs, meaning the customer edge here, wherever they are. They can be in a truck, like an hardware gateway. They can be in a cloud environment. They can be in an on-prem data center. In that case, you deploy the platform as an hardware device or as a software or virtualized solution. So this picture is representing those different flavors and the different type of verticals that can use the solution. Moving forward, what is the type or the look and feel of this platform? As I mentioned, it can be an hardware device, like the industrial gateway, IGW, the industrial server, ISV, or even some dedicated commodity-supported systems. Not all of them are listed here. We qualify systems based on customer needs also. And it can be a cloud image running on Azure, running on AWS, on top of KVM. And it can be also, and it's brand new since June, it can be running on top of an existing Kubernetes environment. So this component can be on top of a Kubernetes running as a pod. So now let's go into quickly into a demo where the goal of the demo will be to show you from this picture on the left side, you have the F5 global network, which is used for connectivity of the control plane. We have secure tunnels that are connecting the regional edges to the CE deployed, in my case for the demo, in Azure. And on the right side, we have the data plane, which is where the user will connect to using internet connectivity, but it can be through a private network, an MPLS or SD-WAN infrastructure, and then reach the destination of the CE, which in my example will be this 3W distributedf5.com that resolves to this Azure endpoint. So let me now switch to the demo of it. Let me take a few seconds. Should be fine, hopefully. Okay. So first of all, I need to log in. That's my credentials. I'm in a tenant that is dedicated for this demo. And I need to go to the cloud and edge sites. That's where you create and manage a site. But because my site is a cloud site, I need to first enter my cloud credentials. I define, of course, an object name. That's what you see in the name in the beta data, AZ demo days 1. And I select what type of cloud credentials I'm creating. So here I'm just creating an Azure type of SPN, service principal. So I need to type my client ID, subscription ID, and tenant ID. So let me copy paste this stuff here. And then I need to add my client secret for this credential. It's blindfolded, meaning that as far as you copy paste the secret, the system is just encrypting it, so you can no more retrieve it, exactly like a public cloud vendor is doing. Then I need to create my site, meaning my Azure VNet site here. So I'm creating directly a brand new VNet from the console. So at any point of time, I will have to go into Azure portal to create anything. I can start straight away from the UI and create my new object, which is my Azure VNet site. So this Azure VNet rely on a resource group that I'm naming here. And this resource group contains an object which will be based in, or multiple objects that will be based in Western Europe. And then I need to select the new VNet parameters. Of course, I can select an existing VNet if I've got something already baked. But if I want to create everything from scratch, I select a new VNet parameter. I select the IP address of this VNet, which is a /16 in my case here. I select what type of component I'm deploying. So there are different flavors of the customer edge you can deploy. With 1, 2 interfaces and able to support applications running on top as Kubernetes apps. Let me pick the one with 2 interfaces, an ingress and an egress for this region. And select for this device that has now 2 interfaces, that I will pick 2 new IP addresses for those 2 new VNets that are needed, of course, 1 per interface. I can run them into the Azure availability zone number 1. I pick an IP address that is consistent with the VNet IP range. So here I'm picking 1.0/24 for the inside interface and 2.0/24 for the outside interface. So now that everything is correct and valid, I can save and exit. And the object that's been created is now ready to be deployed. So at that stage, we have created all the relevant Terraform behind the scene automation. And that's what you can see here. It's now in planning. So the planning has been successful, so I can apply it. You can apply it directly, no need to go through the planning, but the planning is giving you an idea if anything is wrong or right. So here, when I refresh, after a couple of seconds, this process can take a couple of minutes, the time to have the image starting in the cloud and being running with the correct configuration. So let me refresh again. Okay, and now it's applied. So now it's applied, meaning that as far as you see waiting for registration here, means that the site is starting, but he has not been yet enrolled in the full chain of automation from our F5 Distributed Cloud Console. But what we have here is the IP addresses, what is the public IP that has been given to the instance. All the details are here because, as I said, it's coming from the Terraform deployment. So let me now switch back to another view. Hopefully, system is, yes. So let me go to the site list. Okay, a few seconds. Okay, so I see the site being deployed now, and I see the version running on top of it, and I can connect directly from the console to the dashboard that is showing the metrics of this site. The connectivity of this site, as I mentioned in the picture earlier, we have two IPsec connections, one for each regional edge that the CE is connected to, a couple of metrics, and again, those metrics are more linked to the CE itself, how it's behaving, and you see here the IPsec tunnels, and one being active, the other one in standby, and traffic going through those tunnels. That traffic is control plane traffic. So all the push in terms of config changes, as well as the metrics and logs being sent upstream to the console. So now that my site is ready, let me create an HTTP load balancer, the entry point from the internet to my cloud island, let's say. So I create my FQDN here for my website. I select to use HTTP for it, more simple. And I'm adding an origin pool, which is the destination of this traffic after hitting the HTTP load balancer entry point. And I'm using the same applications that you've seen in the previous sessions. No change at all. It's the same application called Sentence internally. And I'm enabling the WAF policy that you've also seen in the previous sessions. Exactly the same, no change, no need to do any change here. The WAF policy is linked to the application, not linked to the type of deployment. And that's the beauty of the solution here. And I'm selecting that I will deploy this HTTP load balancer configuration to the outside network of my CE. That's my CE AZ site demo days. I'm not changing anything, so it will listen on port 80 in that case. I save and exit. And now I'm ready to go to this web application. So let me check if that's applied. Done. Okay. Let me copy paste the FQDN. Let me open the browser and connect to the destination site. So I've got the Sentence app showing up. Let me do a refresh. The background image is changing. And let me try to send a request with, of course, something that is not allowed by the security policy. So I've been blocked with a page that you've seen here, that is a personalized page. And the idea of the blocking page, or the support ID to be more clear, let me check in the logs. So of course here I see that I've got one request being dropped, and then two, and I see my script request in the list of stuff. So in the log, I can get the ID of my existing log, and I can also see the details, of course, of what were the signatures that matched. There are two here that matched in terms of cross-site scripting with the script. And that's the end of the demo. Pretty simple, straightforward.
Philippe, thank you so much for the demo. Really insightful, and for sure we got a lot of questions. Let me start with the first one. Is the Edge a simple security or network gateway? And on top of that, and I think I combined two questions, can we run applications on top of those gateways? So I think these are primarily custom application, what's mentioned here, but I'm looking forward to your answers.
Yeah. So thanks, Patrick, for the question. So yes, the Edge has two flavors. One is what we call mesh, which means that it's more a security gateway where the traffic is going through this gateway in a cloud environment, on-prem environment, or as I said, it can be an hardware device running inside a truck with network connectivity that is mobile network connectivity or Wi-Fi. That's the mesh solution. In that case, it's a pure gateway. And the abstract version of it, which is the same operating system, the same software, but a different flavor in terms of how the system is created. The abstract accepts enabling applications on top of it, meaning some Kubernetes-based applications. So in that case, you deploy the Edge, and on top of it, if you deploy the abstract flavor, you can run your own application. No need to create another server in a cloud or even in an industrial platform. You have the gateway supporting the application also.
Cool. Thank you very much for those insights. Next question, it's about resource provisioning when it comes to edge devices. So the question is, do we have any minimum requirements in terms of resources which are needed to run an edge device? Could you give us some insights here?
Yeah, so it really depends on the type of deployment. So you have the cloud deployments where we already provide you the list of image or instances that you can deploy for cloud. Here in my demo, I was using a D3 V2, but you can select different flavors. For a mesh type of scenario, I would say there is a minimum recommended in terms of disk, memory, and storage. We have the link on the website. It's slightly changing depending on the versions and the features we are adding to the solution. For the abstract, of course, the solution is designed to host applications. So in that case, the number of CPUs, memory, and disk are a bit higher, just being able to support those applications.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. There is one question which I would like to ask, because it aligns with the statement on cloud providers. Do we have any limitation on where we run the edge in terms of cloud? So cloud provider, is there any limitation? Do we support all hyperscaler?
Yeah, so that's a good question and a good remark also at the same time. In the demo, you've seen in the UI potentially, it was a bit short, but when I selected the Azure VNet site, there was also in the list AWS as a transit gateway, and Google Cloud. So here, the interest is that all those scenarios are driven by our UI and our API, because both of them are able to, let's say, deploy a site this way. All the other flavors, meaning IBM Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and so on, it's not saying that they are not supported. It's just saying that we don't have the Terraform plan that is deploying them from the UI. But if you deploy on your own, but we provide you with a Terraform plan that is available on our repository, you can adapt it for your cloud and, of course, for your cloud APIs. So you can run the CE on top of your cloud. The CE requires just IP connectivity and IPsec or SSL TLS connectivity to have the control plane being available and connected. That's the reason of my secure tunnel in the picture.
Okay, thank you very much for those insights. Another question, I tried to combine it, two questions in one sentence. So the question is, Cloud WAAP, what is the name of the product in an on-premise device? And is the WAAP acting as an API gateway in that case? I think maybe we cover the name first and then.
Yeah, so the first, what is the name of the product for an on-prem device? We have not changed the name. It's still WAAP as a service. The as a service is more thinking about the control plane part, which is SaaS-based. So you can operate the platform from this management plane. But in terms of data plane, of course, this platform is controlling and protecting the traffic. If you want to make it like I've done in the demo, specific and not specially connected to the internet, you can do it. So the name is still WAAP as a service, or web application firewall and API protection, which is also answering partially the second part of the question. It's an API protection system. I will be cautious, and that's more the security specialists in charge of API that will better understand probably this, but the API is protection, gateway, there are different terms, and API management also, and our solution is more on the protection side. We have some visibility possibilities, discovery with API discovery in the product, but I will not say it's an API gateway. It's really we need to check the use case to say that we are a gateway in a specific use case. And we are not claiming that we are an API gateway. We are more an API protection, and that's why it's linked to the web application firewall, because it's a kind of evolution of moving from a pure HTTP type of traffic to API type of traffic for the applications.
Okay. So it means we have the ability with our solution to upload Swagger OAuth files and enforce security controls and detect potentially shadow APIs. Okay, but not
exactly.
But yeah, happy to hear about the use case. So please feel free to reach out to your F5 SEs, and then we will discuss the use case a bit deeper. Let me check. There is one question. It's about the edge device again. Whether the edge device itself can run in a cluster for, well, resiliency, high availability, and scalability. So I think the question is the edge device able to run in a HA, or even in a combination of 3 edge devices, 4 edge devices for scalability?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, for the sake of simplicity, I've deployed only one in my demo, but you can deploy a cluster. In that case, all the members, meaning the CEs, are linked together in the configuration. So in that case, they are all part of the same cluster, and whatever you push in terms of configuration is pushed to this cluster, and they all inherit from the same configuration. In terms of traffic path, there are different designs that are really linked to the flavor of the edge. I mean, if you deploy the edge as an hardware device, the way you fail over or you scale will be different because you have a better control on the routing, on the components behind the scene that are connecting those hardware devices. So probably you will prefer a VRP type of scenario with ECMP or ECMP in an active-active design because you have the control of the routing. For a cloud deployment, potentially you will have a different way of doing it, where the CEs will be from a control plane and management plane, all inheriting from the same configuration with a cluster object. But from traffic and data plane, there will be potentially a load balancer fronting them that will do the, let's say, the high availability of the platforms. And of course, the scalability will be also linked to this. So it's there are different ways of doing it. We're actually updating some documents to make that more clear in our documentation on how you do HA and how you do scalability or auto-scaling in those designs.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There is another question coming in. Interestingly, 2 times been asked in a similar fashion, so I'll read it out. Can the distributed cloud console be used to manage and monitor all the WAAP services? And I combine it with another question because it goes into the managed direction. You've been showing I'll try to read it out. You showed in your demo that there was a security policy attached. Is there any limitation in terms of security controls you can attach to a CE in environment? I think it is about, do we have the chance to some other security components like bot defense that could...
Yeah, so all the features from WAAP as a service that have been demoed in the previous sessions, I mean, the bot protection, malicious, and so on, all of them are available in a C deployment, except one, which is a DDoS, I mean, the network DDoS protection. This one is taken at our network level. So, of course, when you deploy a C, it's outside of our network. So for this one, we don't have this level of control. But if you expose the application that is on a C through our network, through our regional edges, which is not the scenario I've been demoing again. This is the other type that's been demoed in the previous sessions with the area exposing the app. In that case, you benefit from the DDoS, I mean, the network DDoS protection that we have in the platform natively, because it's part of the solution. We protect our network, so we protect also the applications running on top of it and exposed on top of it. Okay, so all the different flavors are available except the DDoS at network level. We have the bot protection and DDoS protection at the application level, but not at the network level, except if the C is exposed through our global network.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Other question. On one of your slides, you mentioned multi-cloud connectivity and mesh. Where's the difference? Could you explain it again, please?
Yeah. So the multi-cloud connectivity, the idea is to interconnect those CEs when you deploy them in different cloud environments. It can be the same cloud vendor. I mean, it can be in Azure in the US and in Azure in APCG. And you want to create a virtual network between those different VPCs that are in different regions. And for that, when you deploy a CE in each and every region, those CEs are able to create this private network. So when you connect your data center and you try to go to applications running in those different locations, you only see them through this virtual network, which is, of course, a secure network with encryption on top of it. And you don't have to, let's say, learn anything from the cloud vendor in terms of how you connect different islands between them. I mean, the interconnect, express route, and so on. But if you have them, you can even create the multi-cloud network on top of it. So the CEs are able to connect between them, and they are also able to connect through the arrays to have our network being used as the peering connectivity between them. So if you expand this story to a real multi-cloud, the way Gardner is talking about multi-cloud networking, you have, let's say, one island in Azure, another one in AWS, and potentially in an WAAPaaS cloud and so on. You don't have to think about all the different routing solutions you need to put in place. You can have a see in each and every of those different islands and connect them together to have one virtual network with all your different workloads behind.
Thank you very much. We have time for another question. Let's see. You've been showing that you attached the same security policy to CE. What does it mean for visibility? Okay. I think maybe it's about if it is the same security policy you used before, then you have a kind of visibility. I do not have more insights, so I'm speculating what the question could be. Same policy attached to CE when it comes to logging and reporting. Is it the same dashboard then, or do we have multiple dashboards available for potential logging events? Do you know that, Philippe?
Yeah, so you have a dashboard for the security events. They are kind of, especially when you filter them for what's been blocked, for example, this dashboard will show the logs that are relying to all the devices that are blocking traffic, whatever policies they are using. So you can filter on the policy name. In that case, you will see only the logs. I'm talking about blocking, but if it's not blocking, we are logging also. But if you filter on the policy name, then you can have the logs that are spread across different nodes running in Azure, AWS, on-prem, that have this policy pushed and implemented. So the goal here by reusing the policy is to adapt the policy to the application wherever it's deployed. If you want to have some specifics, of course, you duplicate this policy and then you create a specific version of it, and then it's not connected to the previous policy you are using. So the idea of reusing the policy here in the demo was mainly to show that you don't have to, let's say, go through a complex process of defining a policy. And if you extend this to the personas, you can have a security engineer that has created this policy. You just inherit from it when you deploy your solution and your workload. So the interest is that the airbag model of the platform and the UI is providing you this capability of having someone defining the policies, naming them, putting description on what they are doing and for what type of applications. And you have the guy that is deploying, like I've done in the demo, that is picking it, and you don't even have a clue what is the policy internally. If you have the rights, you can open it. If you don't have them, you just enable or disable this policy. So that's the interest here. So having one single policy is just to be consistent when it's applied to the same application with the same version of the application.
Thank you, Philippe. Really interesting conversation. We're running out of time. I see that we have some questions left. For those, question we couldn't answer live, we will follow up with you directly. We will contact you directly. And with that, we conclude this session of F5 Demo Days today. We would like to thank you for joining us, and I would like to thank Philippe for his insightful demo and for answering the question. Thank you. Look out for an email from us with a link for the recording of today's sessions, and we will look forward to seeing you again in our next demo sessions. If you haven't already, please take a moment to complete the brief survey, which will also pop up when the session ends. Thanks again for being with us today. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.